All right. Hey, first and foremost, guys, I want to thank everybody just for even taking any of your time of any of your days. I know everybody's time is super valuable to even care what I have to say. That's pretty cool in itself. But I've been getting bombarded over the last probably 3 to 4 months with a lot of different, since I've started speaking at different meetups and REI groups and different things like that. I've been going through a lot of different places and getting emails and text messages and phone calls. So I've been getting a lot of questions about how we do what we do, how we find properties that we find. There's kind of wholesales in this area has kind of been like a forbidden word. Like people talk about it under the radar, but they think that maybe if you're buying properties for that cheap and you're reselling them to other investors, like maybe you're not doing things the right way. So I really wanted to change that mentality of what that looks like. Yes, we do a few fix and flips here and there, but that's really not my specialty. I don't know how many of you guys are involved in some way with Invest in PA? Okay, been to their meetups, different things like that. So we are actually putting together what their 3-day program looks like. We're getting together this week. We're going to strategize and do some different things. And they're the fix and flip experts. I do them a few times a year on short sales, something that's just a slam dunk deal. I don't have enough margin to wholesale it. But I really have made a space of being able to find leads and turn those leads into deals. And really, that's, in my opinion, the toughest thing to do. There's cost there, there's some hard work, there's some mentality there that really just needs to be put out there. And what we do to make others successful, we want to be able to help you guys go find deals. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. In any way that we can, if it's wholesaling or if you're working with their mentorship, with the fix and flips, we want to be able to provide a pipeline for investors in this area of wholesale deals that are available so that they can purchase them and also give them deals with meat on the bone. There's a lot of wholesalers out here, and I don't know if any of you done it before, that don't really know their numbers, don't understand the market, and really that's what this training program is going to be about. We're going to put pretty much a YouTube University program together. What's up, man? And have a breakdown of each individual aspect of from the minute you find the deal, well, how'd you find the deal, to the appointment, to getting the property under contract, to dispositioning that property to another investor, and then getting paid. That's the point at the end of it. So first and foremost, how many people have done a deal in here, either fix and flip or, what's up, man? How are you? Good to see you, man. How many of you have done a deal in here that either fix and flip, wholesale, whatever it may be, outside of just a normal real estate transaction? I know we got some licensed agents in here. Anthony, Ted, Nick. All right, who's done more than 5? Ted. There you go. He's the winner. So I'm going to ask a few questions today. I got a bunch of little coffee mugs to hand out. There's just different things with real estate that I'll be giving out. So if you guys have questions throughout, just stop me, put your hand up. I'm going to go through these slides, and these are going to be tips and strategies of wholesale. How to turn a lead and generate cash flow out of that lead. We have done 80 plus transactions in 10 months of business. We will have a gross profit right now about $800,000 in the first year of business. We're on track to do $1 million if everything continues to go the way it's been going, which is, I'm proud of my team. I couldn't do it without my team. It was a big jump and a scary situation for me. I left a great local company that was doing a lot of big things, and I wanted to do it by myself. I was the main acquisitions guy, making good money, and decided that I wanted to be in charge of what that looked like. And if I was going to put in 60, 70 hours a week, that 80 hours a week, that I was the one getting paid, and that I wasn't busting my butt for somebody else. That doesn't mean that that's not a good place to start, because without that, I would not have any idea what I'm doing right now. they taught me a lot of, well, everything I know about this business. And I took a lot of what they gave me and kept it for myself, from my understanding of the business. And then I added different things that I thought, every company, if you look at them from a bird's eye view, even your own company is going to be lacking in different areas. There's going to be strengths and weaknesses, which make, some people great and make some businesses fail. So for me, it was really about focusing on what I found most important, branding myself in a way that I really thought was outside of just the norm. In our business, especially in wholesale, outside of fix and flip, there's like I said, a dark cloud over it. People think that, you're a used car salesman. And that they have a mentality about it that you're taking advantage or you're doing things, sneaky or tricky and really not operating with the highest integrity. And so for me, it was most important to me that I said, okay, we're going to put the client first and the money's going to come if we do it. So that's really what this is all about, and I'm going to go through it. So first and foremost, the mindset. The mindset of somebody that's going to be in this business has just got to be different than your average everyday. Want to go to work 9 to 5, and go home and check out. I don't know how to check out, which is a bad thing, but I literally have no idea. My wife's sitting here right now, so if she hates me most of the time, because I really focus on making myself available at all times, and I think that the minute that you check out is the minute you lose a deal. And for me, that's instrumental in my business, that I don't miss deals, and that I'm available when they come across. I get random leads on all the time, at random times at night, and I need to be the first person to reach out. I need to be the first person on it. But no matter if you're working for yourself, in my opinion, your mindset has got to be learn, study, practice, master. Learn, study, practice, master. So you're learning, like right now you're learning. I've invested in myself. I go to meetups. I do those things. Then you need to study. Like you need to really take your time to digest what you're hearing. So like a lot of you went to 3-day events. You guys went to, different real estate conferences, and you learn, and it's a whole bunch of information, and you just get it, and you're taking notes and doing this, but then you don't study it. You don't digest it. You don't really understand your market. You don't take that information and implement it. And that's part of the study process to be great. And the reason I got Kobe up here is obviously the tragedy that occurred, but his mindset was really that. Like this is his quote. The Mamba mentality is all about focusing on the process and trusting in the hard work when it matters most. It's the ultimate mantra for the competitive spirit. And, in my business, you're going to compete in this business, in wholesale and real estate, you're going to be competing. No matter what you do, no matter how many postcards you send, no matter how many calls you make, no matter how many texts you send, you're always going to be competing. There's always going to be other companies out there that are doing it well. And there's people in here right now that we're going to sit at the same houses, send the same postcards, talk to different people, and that's okay. Like I want everybody. There's enough real estate out there for everybody to do deals. And from that, then you need to practice. Like if you've learned what you're supposed to do in this business and you're studying it, you need to practice. You need to go on appointments. Like I deal with a lot of guys that call me and they're like, "Oh, I got this bad lead. I don't want to go." Like, what else are you doing with your time? Like, go practice. Go practice taking no. Go practice figuring it out, what it looks to overcome an objection when you're at somebody's house and you're sitting in their kitchen and you're talking to them about selling their property. Practice dropping a number that's $60,000 underneath what they're expecting on their property. That takes like a little bit of balls sometimes. Like, you have to really say, okay, like, I really believe in this number. Otherwise, I wouldn't be telling it to you. And you're going to need to explain that. And so that's where you got to practice. If you just show up at your killer deal that you think is a killer deal because you've talked to them on the phone and you're like, oh, they got motivation, they got equity, they got all this stuff, but you haven't practiced, I promise if we go to the same house, I win. Like every time. And I mean that. Like if you don't practice your hobby, if you don't practice what your goal is, if you don't spend the hours in the gym, if you don't do the extra shots, if you don't do the stuff that everybody else doesn't think matters, that's going to separate you from your competition, and that's what's going to be, one of the biggest differences. And then, obviously master your craft. I'm far from there. There's things I learn every day. I don't think you ever truly become a master until, after your career is over. That's when people will recognize you as of a master of your craft. You talk about LeBron James, you talk about Michael Jordan, you talk about Kobe Bryant, you talk about the great ones in that sport or any sport, and a lot of them get the accolades after they're done. Yeah, they could be the best. Oh, they might be the best basketball player. You talk about it, but there's always an argument. There's always an argument. Oh, he's playing better. He's not clutch. What's that argument? And you get those accolades and really get to prove you're a master at the very end of it. Because a real master of any craft is willing to continue to learn and willing to be humble themselves to know that they aren't the best. And even if they are the best, there's more that they can learn. And that really has to be the mindset, is just build the processes and systems that you need to be successful in this business by learning and studying, then practice them, and then worry about getting your accolades at the end. So into some real estate stuff. How much money does it take to get started? A lot of people want to get into wholesaling, honestly, because they believe it costs no money. And the truth is it can. It's a very real thing for you to get into wholesaling with $0. I mean, you probably need some money, but a very limited amount of cash, you can get into wholesaling. But if your goal is to actually do business with limited cash, it's going to be an incredible amount of time invested. And you have to understand that going into it, that you're going to invest a lot of time, and that time is money. And that's, if you have limited funds, then you have to use time. Look at it as a second full-time job. And when I say that, it's one of those things that if you have a job and you're thinking about getting into real estate, you have to literally think of this as every non-value added time that you have in your life that you are committing to something else. You have to study, practice, and learn this business. You have to get out there. You have to do it. We're going to go through what you can do with limited funds in just a minute of how you can move in the right direction with very, 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 very little cash. But it's going to take time, and you're going to have to put hours upon hours upon hours, and you're going to really have to dig deep instead of wide. I always tell people that all the time. The deeper you dig, the better you're going to find your leads. The wider you go, if you're not deep, you're going to be spending money and wasting it. Get familiar with your local courthouse. If this will be a big part. If you're not familiar with it, which would mean you don't have a record, if you are not familiar with where it is, there's tons of public records that are available that you wouldn't even think were available about people in this area, in that county, that, the 30, 60, 90-day list. You have your foreclosure list, your sheriff sale list, your tax list. There's all types of different lists in there that are public knowledge, and we'll get into them later. But you need, unless you have somebody that you want to pay for data analytics, which is going to cost money. So I'm trying to go away from the money side right now. You're going to have to put in the work, which means that you're going to have to do a deep dive at your local courthouse. You're going to have to go pull public records and paperwork and really go find that information. Lead generation. How many people are generating leads in some sort? Like, even if you're an agent, like generating your own leads and having people call you at this point. Anyone? No lead?
Sort of.
Nick?
Not good ones.
You? A few? What ways are you guys using for lead generation?
So some Facebook marketing. I do cold calls a lot, so it's not necessarily they're calling me. I'm actually reaching out.
Sure. A lot of like outbound phone calls. Where are you getting those numbers from? Skip Trey.
What is it? It's called Real Estate Elite.
Okay.
Take a lot of their leads from Fortune Builders. Can't remember the name of it, but yeah.
Okay.
Lead generation site.
Nice. And what about you, Nick?
On the investment side, just did a mailing.
Sure. Okay.
Worked with Zach on getting the data. And
Putting that together.
worked with REI and got some set up Pat Live and all that.
Nice. What about you, man? Whoever.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I mean, I'm a contractor, so I pretty much just meet people as I go like that.
Okay. Nice. What about you, Jody?
Cold calls.
Cold calls.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Basically people in the market.
Sure. So those are all really good ways to, find leads. So I would say, first and foremost, if we're talking about not spending money, your easiest way is going to be social media. And I'll go over this a million times. Most of you are here because of a social media post, I believe, right? I didn't advertise any other way. So at some point, somebody saw my social media post, and now you guys are here. I sell houses like that constantly. My buyers list, my dispositions list is pretty much all built off of social media. People look at my Facebook story, my Instagram story. Whenever I buy something, I put it up there right away. And I have my group of 10 buyers that usually buy from me in different areas in different counties, and that I can consistently know that they're going to close. I'm not going to have any issues, all those types of things. But if they see something on Facebook before I call them, they get mad at me. They're like calling me, texting me, but that's how great social media is that, it's a constant flow of information and people are on there all the time. How many people in here have 5,000 friends? They're full.
You talking Facebook?
Yep, Facebook. You can't get any more than 5,000 on Facebook. How many, who has, let's throw out a number. Who has the most friends in here? This is important. This is important. I float at 4,975. That way I can add people that just randomly pop up, and I can delete people that I get annoyed with their stupid posts. And no, I didn't delete yours. No, you deleted me. No, I like your post. I've been cheering you on for a minute. No, so who has the most friends in here? Honestly.
I have 1,513.
1,513. Anybody beat 1,513?
37 and some change.
3,700?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody beat 3,700? Nobody can beat 3,700?
I need to add friends.
You guys better go add some friends.
Well, today maybe we can add.
Thanks, man. Honestly, guys, Instagram, Facebook, any ways that you can reach people, they're combined. So if you post on Instagram, you can share from Instagram to your Facebook. You can then take that Instagram post, share it to your story. It'll go to Facebook and Instagram. You're going to get, some people that watch your story. Some people love clicking through stories every day and don't look at really Facebook or Instagram. And then some people will look at posts and they'll never look at your story. So you got to use those things to your advantage. If you have 5,000 people and 10% of those people are watching what you do, and you have 1,000 people and 10% of those people are watching what you do, guess who's going to have a bigger group of people watching them? And I've sold houses to people I don't know. Literally, they've reached out to me and been like, hey, I saw that house. How much you selling that for? And I'm like, oh, who's this guy? But all of a sudden now I get his email, I get his phone number, we're friends on Facebook. Next thing you know, he's following me. Next thing you know, social media is so powerful. I did a show today with a local guy that does different shows. His name's Shane, and he was talking about social media, and 91% of companies use social media for advertising. There's $45 billion spent on social media advertising every year by companies that are 100 plus. They're projecting in 2021 that there'll be $64 billion spent in social media advertising. And through that same time, they're also projecting that TV advertisements will go down $3 to $4 billion in that time. So what does that tell you? If you're jumping in that time, 15 grand, 17 grand in social media advertising and dropping billions in TV advertising, it's like Coke's not stupid. Nike's not stupid. They're way smarter than I am, and they're using it. So you have got to use it, and you got to use it at the highest level. Like, make sure that you can go to Facebook groups, different real estate groups, find people from there. Then your suggested friends that people are popping up, they're going to grow with those people. Like, you're not just going to get a whole bunch of random people. And also, if you find people, like a lot of the people that share my stuff and follow me, like, aren't even local. Like, they're local, but like they're not like friends. My friends suck. Like, my actual friends, like, I'm like, my actual friends, like, don't share my stuff. And I'll be like, yo, what the heck, man? And then, like, somebody that I hardly know is, like, sharing my videos and sharing my stuff. And I'm like, man, I wish my friends were that nice. Like, they support me and they don't even know me. So social media is without promotion, without anything, if you build your friends list, you ask for people to share, you communicate with individuals. Social media is a referral system. You're going to get the best lead you can get is a referral. And I talked about this, some of you guys that were investing PA already for the 3-day event. But why isn't a referral such a great lead?
It's free.
It's free. And what have you already built before?
Already built the rapport, so they're advertising on your behalf.
And they trust you. You've already broke the barrier of trust because somebody that they know, somebody that they like and trust gave you their name. So instead of having to build trust, you already have trust. So what social media has done is social media, by putting yourself out there in every different area, not just your business. If you watch my social media, it's not just Honest Home Solutions. It's not just Erik Wholesaling. It's my kids, my family, wrestling, my coaching. And then part of me is my business, but that's not all of me. So you're going to get to see all of me. And what that does is it has people out there that have never met me, out of those, 5,000 friends, that feel like they know me. And through that, they share, they tell other people that they want to work with me, they send me business, they refer me, and if they ever need anything, they feel like they can reach me. I'm not like a TV person where they can't reach me. They can literally send me a direct message and say, hey, I had a question about real estate. Hey, I had a question about a deal. How can I do this? How can I do that? And just make yourself available. That's huge. Driving for dollars. This is the next cheapest thing you're going to run into. I just say take your long way to work. Take a long way everywhere you go. Drive through neighborhoods you didn't know were there. Trash days are a huge day to go driving for dollars. Everybody puts out their trash. So if somebody doesn't have their trash out, there's a quality chance they're either on vacation or the house is vacant. And if it's overgrown and there's no trash out, probably means the house is vacant. So
The trash can't stay out.
or the trash can't stay out. Yes, exactly. It's obvious to tell houses that are decrepit. If they got holes in the windows, things are vacant. Of course, those are vacant. That like they're broken down. You can find them, but so can everybody else. If you find the ones where maybe the renters left their mattress on the front porch and it's a day old, guess what? Like that owner, that renter, that landlord, he might not even know they're gone yet. But if you keep your eyes open and keep busy, that's when all of a sudden that check doesn't start coming. He wants to sell. So that's a really good one. I'll show you a program that we use for driving for dollars. Everybody on my team drives for dollars. That includes my office manager. We just take pictures of houses. We drive by them, we take pictures of houses, and we have a system that sends a postcard directly to the owner and pulls a tax name. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, these are great ways. We found 2 deals on here when we first started and we didn't really have any capital. We wholesaled the first one for 15 grand, and then the other one we wholesaled for like 9 grand. But both were found on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. I would say if you're looking for deals, you should be scouring this, often. Make sure you take your time, scour it, and then make a decision of how you want to address it. You need to reach out to these people. Don't be scared about the numbers that are on it. Really find out if it's a deal that you can. Just because they post a number doesn't mean that that's what they're going to accept. They're on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Like, if they were really wanting to sell their house for a real number, they would list it with an agent. That it's there for a reason. Skip tracing. Anybody know what skip tracing is in here? Has everybody used it that raised their hand? That's just finding information from addresses, tax records, whatever it may be, and putting that address into your skip tracing. It's going to kick you back the owner's name. It's going to kick back information. It's going to have phone numbers, addresses. A lot of them have relatives' phone numbers. Don't be scared to call. You're going to get some, people that might not really want to talk to you, but don't be scared. Sorry, I apologize. I'll call somebody else on this list. So it is what it is. Calling and text. I heard a lot of people do outbounds in here. Everybody that really talked, outbound phone calls are a great way to find leads, and you're going to deal with that same thing. It's a numbers game at that point. Who's going to want to talk to you, if you're going to win the deal or not. Somebody might have already been there. How'd you find the number? Is it the right number? But it's a numbers game. And then texting. Has anybody put a text campaign together? Anybody? You have? Shakur's over here just crushing it. No, but no. What'd you use for that, Sherpa?
Lead Genie.
Okay, Lead Genie. So there's a lot of different companies out there that do texting campaigns. This is the cheap. If you're going to spend money, this is the cheapest way to do it. Postcards, even your best postcard is going to cost 33 cents a piece, based on who you're using. So 33 to 43 cents a piece. Yes.
I will say, we have a couple of properties, and in the last probably year to 6 months, I've gotten more text messages regarding those properties.
Than ever before.
Hey, this is Joe. You ever think of selling your property? Or I just got the 2 today.
Sure, I believe you.
Somebody in this room, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, possibly. And honestly, that is the struggle. Is whenever the market changes, you want to try to stay ahead of it. Now everybody's caught up on the text message things. Everybody doesn't. You got to find different channels, and that's why I tell people all the time: is don't use one of these. If you're using one, you're wrong. If you're using 2, you're wrong. If you're using 3, you're wrong. If you're using 4, you're wrong. You got to have multiple channels to find lead generation, because he might send a ton of postcards. He might send a ton of postcards. He might send a ton of postcards, and they might all do 4 of them. But if you got that 5th one that they don't do, you're ahead of the game. So you just gotta continue to want to find different avenues for lead generation, because this right here is the beginning of your business. If you can drive leads, if you can drive lead generation at a high level, you can do this business at the highest level. This is the hardest thing to do because of everybody out here doing it. And this is time commitment. If I told you to put dollars anywhere, if you're going to spend money, spend it here. Spend it here. Everything else you can do afterwards without it. You don't need CRMs. You do eventually, but this is where you want to spend your money, is in lead gen. And then, of course, you can purchase data. Data is expensive. If you want to buy data, if you want to get somebody that's going to put data analytics together for you, you're talking anywhere. Those lists can cost anywhere from $5 to $25K. Depends on the county. Depends on where you're at. So I mean, those are, now they have quality return on investment, but got to have the money up front to do it. They're not going to send you a list, and if you don't know how to work those leads and you pay for it, it's a really big waste of money. So I went through social media. It's free. 80% of real estate marketers indicated that they have increased their exposure through social media efforts. 63% of real estate marketers are utilizing video-based content. Make videos, honestly. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000,000. It is great to have your content out there in video. And the best part about it, I would tell you, is that they don't go away. Like that information is out there forever, good or bad. But it is out there forever, but it's free. So, driving for dollars, we talked about that. What we use is Deal Machine. I went through everything. I'll kind of go through these slides a little bit quicker. Feel free to take pictures of this stuff if you want. Reach leads that any other investors can't by calling any card that is returned undeliverable. that is, in my opinion, this is like a job in itself. If you send a lot of mailers, reaching lead that other investors can't by calling any card that is returned undeliverable. If you get postcards that come back to you and they're undeliverable, there's a reason. They can't find the owner or somebody's moved. Guess who else can't find that owner? Everybody else that sent a postcard. So like deep dive those guys. Like those and you know, I'm going to give you as much information to get you going. After that, you know, you guys contact me, let me know if you guys need, but you have got to exhaust every resource and every lead. If you don't exhaust it, you're probably wasting money. You know, we have a follow-up that goes 6, 7, 8 times deep if we don't get a hold of somebody. Plus we have drip campaigns that send text messages, and you know, once we talk to somebody, it's strategic, but you got to build that. At first, you got to do all the work yourself. Until you can afford the machines that put you in a position, you can do this without the cash. It just takes time and it takes work. Craigslist and Facebook ads, talk to you about that. 1 in 3 Facebook users actively engage on the marketplace platform. I literally, this is not a joke, and I'm not saying it because she's here, but this morning she walked into the bathroom and said, "I just can't get enough of Facebook Marketplace." I don't even know what she buys on there, but you know, so that literally happened. I'm not making that up. So a lot of these people want to sell without an agent. They don't want to pay somebody commission. They think they can do it themselves. These are a lot of individuals that, you know, in my opinion, don't really know the market. They don't really know how to advertise, or the house needs work. Skip tracing. We talked about this. The action and practice locating people who are missing or have defaulted on debt, especially as a profession. Simply put, this is how we get the information needed to contact specific. So this right here, these are resources right here. These are different ways you can access and skip trace. REI Skip, Skip Genie, Lead Sherpa. REI Skip is a Max Maxwell system. If you don't know who Max Maxwell is, you should, especially if you want to get into wholesaling. I would actually challenge you to go do his 30-day challenge. If you want to find your first deal, it's the repetition of what he teaches during that process is definitely, you can see every 30 days, his 30-day challenge on his Instagram, Max Maxwell. It's definitely worth checking out. And it'll kind of coach you through what 30 days looks like to find a deal. Or you can wait like 30 more days and I'll have one for you. Calling and texting leads, we just spoke about that. Here's some resources for you on that. Different things that you can use to call and text leads. You have Mojo Dialer, Text Magic, Lead Sherpa. Mojo Dialer is my favorite. They can call up to they call up to, I don't know, it's a ridiculous amount of numbers at one time. And then whoever answers, you'll get, so it'll ring, you know, however many phone numbers at one time. So if you have a list of 500 phone numbers, you can plug them in and it'll call them, and then whoever answers, that's who you get on the phone, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. But it reaches, instead of you sitting there dialing number by number, which I don't know, there's a limit on me sitting in front of a phone dialing, and it's like 5. It's like 5 phone calls. But this will make those phone calls for you, and it reaches out to people, and then once it connects to one of them, all the other lines shut down, and then you can do it again. Text Magic, Lead Sherpa, those are ways to text people. Again, now you have to go find this information to be able to do it. No one's going to give you numbers. You know, you got to have that mindset of go get it, build the process, build the systems. You got to go skip trace these people, find the information that you need. So we go from all that lead generation to what's next. If you finally get leads, you got to schedule an appointment. And this is when you really have to figure out how to do it. And if I were to tell you that I'm the best at this, I would be lying, because I don't really schedule appointments anymore. But my buddy Scott, who's been my best friend since I was 13. He's a business partner of mine. He manages all of our lead generation. He's my CMO. He handles all of our marketing. These are the steps to follow that we came up with that really make a big difference in what you're going to do. So the very first thing you need to do, unless you're just starting, don't disqualify leads, go practice. Go, even if it's a bad lead and you got time, go practice, go figure it out, go do what you need to do to see what it's like to go to a bad appointment, test motivation, test equity, see if you can draw numbers out of people, do the things that you want to do, practice your craft. But once you get to a point, we get about 100, our goal is to get 80 to 100 leads a week. If we can average 80 to 100 leads a week, we're in a pretty good situation. Out of that, it's a pretty good breakdown. We send 35,000 mailers a month. So we have to be able to support that with getting deals done. So the first thing is qualify the lead over the phone. What's their equity position? If somebody bought their house last year at full market value, they are probably not a candidate for you as an investor. I mean, there's different ways to do it, but I'm not teaching subject 2 today. But equity is probably one of the most important aspects of any deal. Where are they at? What is owed on the property? Is there enough owed that they can get out of their mortgage, have their mortgage paid? Is there no mortgage? All those things need to be done and have that conversation up front, because if the house is worth $129 and they bought it for $129 and it was a year and a half ago, like they probably owe $128, like $127. They probably paid all interest. So, and they had closing costs and different things like that. So knowing that person, having that conversation. The next biggest thing for me is motivation. Make sure that you find motivation, and what that looks like is why are they calling you? What is their motivation to sell? Have that have that call up front, talk about it, put that information out in front of you, and see really how motivated they are. Some people just call you just to find out. They pretty much want a free appraisal or to figure out what their house is worth. They're not motivated to sell. They plan on staying there for the next 20 years. They just want somebody to come out and check out their house and tell them how much it's worth. I can do that over the phone or just refer them to Zillow, because they think Zillow's right anyway. Then worry about condition. Talk about condition. What needs done? Could the house be listed? You might not be the best option, and that's okay. Maybe as an investor, they'd rather go the real estate route. And it's okay if you're not the answer to their problems, but if you can go over their options with them and make sure that through that phone call you're building a relationship and communicating with them and making sure that from the minute they contact your company, your brand starts to be on the front of it, and that would be whatever you stand for. My brand is a people first mentality, so we're going to do everything we can to make sure that from the minute we pick up that phone on an inbound call, that's what they see the whole way through the transaction. And I've said that a million times. You can't be perfect. We've made mistakes. There's things that happen, but if you start like that and you finish like that, it goes a long way. So find out what the condition of the property is. See if you can get them to give you a number, what they're hoping for. If they tell you if their house is worth $129 and they tell you $120, test them, drop some numbers out there, different ways to do that. Those are some tactics you can learn. There's a lot of, I drop a lot of anchors. I drop low, different numbers to see how reactions, see where they're at, see what that response is going to be like. Build a relationship in this first contact. Just talked about that. Determine what motivates them and why. Why do they want to sell? Why do they need to sell? What are they going through? What can you help them with? What's their picture perfect look like? What's that next step in life? What's that next chapter of their book? What's it going to look like? And they need to figure out what that is, and they need to be willing to share that with you and want you to provide a service to them. Otherwise, they probably don't have the motivation needed to sell it at the discount that you're hoping to get. Ballpark the lead with a potential offer range. Ballpark might be 50 and 95K. Open them up, see what they say. If you're not getting a number out of it, give them something. Give them a ballpark that's wide. You know, hey, I bought properties in this area from anywhere from $15,000 to $80,000. They're gonna be like, what? Like, that's a really wide range. Be like, hey man, I bought houses that are falling down at 15 grand, and I bought houses that are in pretty good shape for 80. And they'll be like, well, I would never sell my house for less than 50 grand. Perfect. Now you told me 50 grand you're comfortable with. And opening that ballpark to get responses. If you give a $15,000 range, you're not gonna get any response. People aren't gonna give you, people respond with emotions. And so, you know, if they hate your number, they're going to respond emotionally. If they love your number, they're going to respond emotionally. If you give them a wide enough range that they need to make a decision, sometimes they're going to give you that. Or they're just, I've had plenty of people be like, oh, that's a great range. What do you do? You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. It's just a tactic. It doesn't work every time. But the point is to kind of see where their numbers are and see where they're comfortable at, where they're focused at. Set an appointment as soon as possible. I think this is people's weakest area. I've struggled with it with some of my acquisitions agents as well. My goal is to be out at your house within 24 hours. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If we can schedule an appointment that day, that's my goal. Because if you're calling other people, if you're calling me, I'm not stupid enough to think you're not calling other people. I went out to a house yesterday in Haynes Acres. They called it 11. I had an appointment in Harrisburg at 2, and I was sitting at the desk, and they were talking to Scott, and I was like, tell them I'll be there at 12. They were there with their family. They were already making decisions. Guess what? They stopped calling other people because I was going to be there in 30 minutes. How much better service could you possibly get than that you call somebody and they're at your house 30 minutes later? And it's a great deal. It's a meticulously maintained property, and it was great. I mean, it's those are deals. Now that deal is more of something that can be sold on the market. We might do like a paint and carpet setup in there. They've done a lot of the big mechanicals, roofs, windows, all those types of things. But they're moving to, you know, a nursing home. And they wanted to be able to have a guaranteed sale. They wanted to put their first down payment down at the beginning of February. They wanted to move in that direction, and they wanted somebody that was going to like give them white glove service throughout that process. And you know, I talked to them about leaving stuff behind, and you know, helping them move, and you know, all the things. Those are things you can do. Again, you need money for those things to be able to do them, but those are the things that are going to separate you from different companies. It's not about numbers. It's about the people. And that's how you buy houses, guys. But set that appointment as soon as possible. That biggest thing you do. If you get a phone call on a lead on Thursday and you decide that because you're going out of town because your buddy's birthday is that weekend and you're like, I can't, I'm going to Philly Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'll see you Monday, I'll be there on Friday and I'll buy it. Like, I'm just telling you, that's how you got to operate. That's when I say get rid of the non-value-added time. Don't get me wrong. I like to go have fun. I like to have fun with my friends. But like when we first started this, I did none of that. It was nothing. Like all I did was work. 7 days a week, 80 hours a week, committed to it until we figured out all the systems, processes, and KPIs that it was. And I knew that when wrestling season came, I was going to have time taken from me because I was going to be coaching. So by the time wrestling season came, I wanted to make sure everything was was running like a clock. And it is. And, you know, we still have ups and downs. Marketing can change. But you have to set that appointment as fast as possible because they are calling other people. You are not the only person that pops up on a Google search. You are not the only person that sent them a postcard. You are not the only person that saw that their house was vacant. You are not the only person that pulled the 30, 60, 90 list. You are not the only person that understands a foreclosure, sheriff sale, and tax sale. I promise you that. So you gotta separate yourself. Attending the appointment. So after you set it within 24 to 48 hours. Set that appointment. Get that information out there. What are you gonna do when you attend it? Making an impression to get the deal. Be different. This is not, in my opinion, a 15-minute in and out. If you spend 15 minutes looking at that house, if you spend time just walking through, hey, give me a quick tour, beat up their house, tell them how ugly it is, tell them how beat up it is, what you're going to have to cost you to fix it, what you can pay for it. If that's a 30-minute conversation, you lose again. Like you will. Like you're just going to. Because for me, I don't talk about any of that information until I've been there an hour and 25 minutes. I could tell you that 80% now granted, take this in a grain of salt when I say you have to do that, because some people are going to be like, yo, you got 15 minutes. Like, it is what it is. They don't care what you have to say. They don't care about it at all. You're in and out. Give me a number and be on your way, because they got 7 people coming in, and all they care about is a financial return, which is fine. Give them your best offer at that point, see where you stand. But outside of that, I'd say the other 80% of the people that I know, they know about my family. I know about their family. I know about their kids. I know why they're moving. I know what they want to do, what that next picture looks like, why they're doing this, why they want to do that, why they want to deal with a cash buyer, why they don't want to put it on the market, how long they've lived there, what school their kids went to, what sports their kids played, if their kids, have grandkids, if they don't. Like, I build a relationship, that's what I do while I'm there. I show compassion. That's important. Guys, you got to care about people. People know if you're fake. Empathy is not an easy thing to fake if you're going to be there for an hour and 15 minutes to 2 hours. Like, stop trying to fake it. Like, if you don't care, just be a normal guy that goes and gets the deals that don't involve an emotional attachment and an emotional relationship. If that's not what your brand is, if that's not what you want to do, don't fake it till you make it, because people are going to know you're fake. They're going to know 100% that is not who you are. That's not what your brand stands for, and that's okay. Like, there's contractors that do this at a high level that just walk through houses and give numbers. Their thing isn't to go buy direct from seller. They'll buy them off the MLS. They'll find deals from different wholesalers like myself and still make a ton of money, but they just don't want to deal with that direct talk with the seller to purchase that property. And that's okay. That doesn't need to be your business. It's just mine. And I buy direct from seller. So my brand is what we do. And my goal is to make sure that everybody I deal with is showed compassion, that I listen, that I build a trustworthy relationship with them. So even if things go wrong, even if it's not as perfect as I was hoping it would be when I sat at their table, they know that I'm going to call them, I'm going to respect them, I'm going to give them that trust, and that they trust me enough at that point that when I say, hey, this is crazy, I didn't really want this to happen, but here's where we're at. It just happened to me last month. We had an incredible property. We bought it for $165, didn't really need any work, sold it for $229 in a day and a half, and it happened that it was a mobile. It was a mobile on a foundation. And we couldn't see, somebody got underneath. It had steel chassis because there was 2 properties on one deed, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Nobody could get a loan on it. They needed to find a portfolio lender. I went back to them. I told them about it. Hey, we're going to need to extend this. I'd built a relationship with them. They were like, hey, my parents are just really sick. We love your company. It's completely okay, but we're going to go in a different direction. And that's okay. Like, we couldn't fund it anyway. No bank would touch it. But they weren't mad because I was upfront with them. I'd built a relationship of trust. I'd done everything. I mean, I put $6,000 worth of kitchen appliances in the house, and I gave them to them. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, yeah, you guys can have it. Like, whatever goes out at the house. I put a range, a refrigerator, a dishwasher. It is what it is. I didn't expect that to happen. Nobody expected that to happen, but I built a relationship with them that they knew I was being honest, that I cared about them. And, no, they didn't know it. They didn't know it was a mobile. I didn't think it was a mobile. I really had no idea. It didn't even look like one. It was on a foundation, and I didn't crawl underneath it to check if there was steel. Yeah, learning lesson for me as well. And also a learning lesson for everybody that I talk to, that if you have 2 houses on one deed and one of them's a mobile, nobody will touch it. If there's 2 normal houses, it doesn't matter. If it's stick built, it's cool. But if there's a mobile on there, it doesn't matter if it's on a foundation or not. Keep that just in case it happens. And then the ability to leave behind material. Guys, if people are getting up and going, they don't want to have to deal with, clean outs. They cost money. If they're downsizing or, going to a smaller place, they they can't take half their stuff. If they're moving from a 3-4 bedroom house to, a 2-bedroom apartment, or, just getting a smaller house, like a lot of that stuff's got to stay. They got storage sometimes of 40, 50, 60 years. That's a lot of stuff. I've lived in my house for 5 years and I have a lot of stuff, let alone if I lived there for 40 or 50. So just make sure that, in my opinion, that's got to be a part of it, and plan on taking those costs. Steps to follow when you go through an appointment: build the relationship, know your renovation numbers, know your purchase numbers. If you guys don't know that math problem right there, write it down right now. That's like, you can find that anywhere, but your numbers should be 70% of the adjusted retail value minus the cost of renovations. That's around where your offer should be at every time. And now you may have some flexibility on that, but if you don't know this, you can't do this. Not well. If you don't know how to manage your renovation, what it's going to cost, if you don't know that, truly know it, you're either going to screw yourself here because you're going to have a renovation budget that's too low, so you're going to pay too much, or your renovation budget is going to be too high, and you're not going to be able to buy the property because somebody else is going to pay more than you. So you got to know that. Build yourself go find a contractor, sit down with them, build yourself a list. What it costs for gutters, what it costs for a mailbox, what it costs, to side a house, what it costs for flooring, what it costs for paint, what it costs for outlets, what it costs for a whole kitchen redo, a bath redo, a half a bath, to finish a basement, to update electric panels. I other than Ted and my contractor guy, does anybody feel super confident with that? You do? Ted, I assume, feels extremely confident with that. You feel confident with that? That's something that, again, that practice thing that I was talking about in the very beginning, that's the only way you learn that. I've messed them up still to this day, and probably why I like wholesaling. No, it is what it is. But, if you miss something in those processes, if you miss, a foundational issue or something like that that's going to cost you a lot of money, at some point, there's not a way to get out of it. So how to draw the numbers out is the last one of how to draw the numbers out. What I was going with there, I don't know how to go back on this thing, so I'm not going to go back. But is getting them to give you a number. And like I said, with that ballpark, with that range, opening it up, building a relationship to the point where everybody, when you go into this, the minute you walk in the door, most people are going to have their guard up. As an investor, they're going to be not want to give you a lot of information. They're going to that's why I build relationships, because that wall's got to come down. They got to feel comfortable giving you numbers. They got to feel comfortable talking about what their needs are, what problem or what situation they're dealing with, and you need to be able to paint a picture of how you can solve it. If you go there with the mindset that you're going to buy a house, you're missing out. Stop buying houses, start solving problems, because that's what people want. I tell people all the time, I'm like a convenience store. You're gonna if you swing by Rutter's on your way home right now, you're gonna pay $1 more for milk, right? Without a shadow of a doubt. You're gonna pay $1.25 more for eggs, but it's convenient, right? So what I am is, you're gonna take a discount, but I'm gonna be convenient. I'm gonna make it easy. I'm gonna make it stress-free. You're not gonna have to go out of your way. I'm gonna do all your work for you. I'm gonna put myself in a position, and you build that relationship where they truly believe that that's what your goal is to solve their problem and help them with the situation, get them to the finish line, get them, in a position that they can see that next chapter of their lives. That's when big things happen. That's when people want to work with you. That's when you get the referrals. That's when people continue to bring deals to you. And that's the biggest thing ever, is once your lead gen can go, you have your own lead gen working, and then all of a sudden people start bringing deals to you. Now you got another channel, another avenue of lead generation that nobody else has unless they're doing a good job doing it. So closing the deal, just always, when you're closing the deal, there's very important parts of it. And the biggest thing is know your contract. If you're an investor out there and you don't know your contract, you are going to be lost because people are going to question your contract. There's no way about it. No matter if it's the cleanest contract you've ever written and it's a 2-page or if it's a 6-page, people are going to ask you questions about it. I always encourage you to have an attorney help write your contract so that it has protection in there for your company. Make sure your contract has the ability to protect you if things pop up unexpectedly. Things are going to pop up unexpectedly. Like, that's without a shadow of a doubt. Flood zones. FEMA map can be wrong. Tax record can be wrong. That's happened. You're going to have to get a flood cert. Liens. People will tell you they don't owe any money on their property. They don't have anything, that nothing's on it. Next thing you know, you have the property under contract. I just did this up in Center County not long ago. We sold the property. We had wholesaled the property for about a $20,000 profit. She was in Florida. She didn't know, she said she swore to God there was no liens on the property. We put the property under contract. A couple days before settlement, we find out there's a $45,000 lien on the property. We had sold it for $50,000. I think we made like $600. It is what it is. She was super excited. She sent us like thank you cards. We did what was right and finished the deal and made it work. But those are things things are going to happen. The worst part about that would be if we hadn't resold it and there's a $45,000 lien on the property. What are you going to do with it? You put it under contract for $20,000. So make sure that you can, if condition changes. So if in my contract there's a statement that says normal wear and tear is expected, but we expect the property to be in the same condition it was when we were here today. Obviously, if there was no water in the basement, and while you're under contract, the basement gets 4 feet of water, and the furnace is shot, and now all of a sudden you got a water problem that you got to take care of. My offer is not going to be the same. It doesn't, and you have to protect yourself with that. Like, you have to. Septics, pay the money, get it changed, get it checked. If I buy a property with a septic, you're darn right I'm going to pay the $800 to have it pumped and tested before I purchase that property. Every single time. And if it costs me $800 to walk away from the deal, to not lose 15 G's, I'm completely comfortable with that. And then on the other side of that, there can be issues with septics, and you can go back and renegotiate. Put that once you have a septic report that says, hey, the septic needs $7,000 worth of work, the tank's busted, won't fit FHA guidelines anymore because it's a 50-year-old septic system and the tank's too small for a family of 4. Like, you might need to put a new tank in, and you can go back and say, hey, I need to adjust this price based on how much this is going to cost me to fix. I didn't have this in my number. And most of the time, if you've built that relationship, if you've built trust, they're going to say, well, okay, can't sell it without that anyway, right? You're right. Can't sell it with a bad septic system. So give yourself, I wouldn't go over the top with this. Don't be like, oh, have everything that you could possibly think of, because that's going to display you not really being in the deal. And that's not what you want. You don't want people to think you're going to walk away. You only want to have that to protect your company so you don't end up eating your foot on a big deal that's something that wasn't told to you, or a condition change, or whatever it may be. And during that time, make sure that they keep homeowners insurance on their property. Like, if something happens, a flood, or during the time you're under contract, like if a tornado comes and takes part of the roof away, guys, like, I'm not saying we have tornadoes here all the time, but like, you just never know what it could be. Anything could happen. Somebody could leave the bathtub running, a kid, next thing you know, you have a mess from the second floor down to the first floor. Break out every cost, and so this is not probations, this is prorations. So break out every cost and proration if there is any. Transfer tax, deed prep, clean out. Figure out whose job that is. And if it's theirs, if they're going to be, you know, they're always going to get money back for their taxes. So whatever that would be, if they're, you know, halfway through the year, they're going to get 6 months back. You're going to pay those 6 months. Transfer tax is 2% in the state of Pennsylvania. A lot of times it gets, you know, you split it up 1% and 1%. If you're going to pay it all, let them know. If they're going to have to pay it, let them know. If they're going to have to pay for the deed prep, or you're going to pay for deed prep, whatever cost they're going to have, put it out on the table on the front end so you don't have to deal with it on the back end. The minute you, as an investor, have to clean up messes where people think they lost your trust, is, you know, it's just one more thing. It makes people feel uneasy to get to the finish line. Are they going to get paid? Are you going to pay them? You know, if you are purchasing the property, make sure you have a proof of funds. But if you're wholesaling the property, you know, tell them that. Let them know that you have the ability to sell this to a third party. Like, that's part of your contract, that you can sell this to a third party, and explain to them what that looks like and why somebody would be interested in paying more than what you would be willing to pay for it. Because either they might do the work themselves, or they might have a different way of breaking it down, but it might not be somebody that they'll ever talk to. And you've built those relationships over time. You're getting paid for the years of expertise that you have, not the, you know, not sitting down there right now. And last one is must be assignable. If you're going to wholesale the deal, make sure that they know you can sell it to a third party and you can assign that contract to somebody else. If you don't have that information, if you don't tell them that, and all of a sudden there's 3 people at settlement, or you're having them sign other contracts or whatever it is, they're going to be really weirded out. They're going to give you a lot of pushback. They're going to be uncomfortable. They're going to feel like they were taken advantage of. You have to put that information out there. Do not lie. Do not lie. And you know, it is, in my opinion, the biggest thing that you can hold on to in this business is operating with integrity, because of that gray cloud that I've talked about over the word wholesale.
So Eric, do you have like a template that you work off of? Because obviously every wholesale deal is going to be different. Like,
Sure.
Are you making sure that you're not missing points by using like a specific template that kind of like, you know, jogs you to say, okay, I've got, you know, all of these things? Are you giving it to them in writing? I mean, obviously when you first meet with them, you're just assessing what you need to assess.
Sure.
And then you're going to go back, kind of put your pen to paper, kind of figure out what you're going to do. Preliminarily, do you go back and revisit them again and kind of say, this is kind of what I was thinking, you know, those
So
kinds of things? Or?
I don't do that. A lot of people do that. I make my offer on the spot that day. I bring my contract with me. I don't want to leave the house. If I build a relationship, I don't want to start over a week from now.
So you write it as you go with them?
Yeah, I know my renovation numbers. I run my math while I'm there. We sit down, we talk about numbers. And if I call you a week later, I'm starting from scratch. Especially if you talk, like, yeah, you know who I am now. We have a little bit better conversation. But, like, no matter what anybody says, like, even the toughest of tough people, they make emotional decisions. And emotional decisions have to do with attachment to the person that they're speaking to. If people feel attached to you, they're going to make decisions based on who they're speaking to. If you give them a week and then call them back, you got to, now they might sell you the house a week from now. It happens all the time. I get deals that I go there and they're not ready to make a decision on that day, and a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, I made an impact enough. You definitely want to impact them enough that they remember you, but it's still not going to be the same as like sitting there really talking about what they're dealing with and how you can help them and that decision that they can make. So that's why it's so important to me to know your numbers. Like my number, you can't just miss by $10,000 and put it in, you know, and put an offer on the table, especially as a wholesaler. If you're going to wholesale, you got to be able to make sure there's going to be meat on the bone for the next guy. So with the question is, I don't really go away. I stay there and try to put it in there and try to close that deal the day that I go on the appointment. And if not, then, you know, I would work that way a little bit. But for me, it's all about people. Like, how can I figure out a way to make sure that even when they sign that paper. Now the template side of it, my contracts are all the same. It's a fill in the blank. You know what I mean? Like, hey, and then I go through it with every individual when we go over the contract. I always say, I mean, we do it sometimes. We send contracts in, through Dotloop or whatever, so they can sign online. I'd say my success rate with that is way lower than doing it in person.
So when you're there, like how much time do you give them before your contract expires? Is it like once you leave, they got to call you, or do you give them 24, 48 hours? Or,
What do you mean?
So like I always go out there when I give somebody my contract, say this 24 hours is expired.
Sure.
So if you want to call back, then we can, like you said, renegotiate some things, but I don't let them shop my contract around.
Sure. So, I mean, your offer? Or
Yeah, my offer.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that it's always good to put a date and time on it, I would say.
You do that. Right?
Yes, I do. I usually say 72 hours. And that's just because, now granted, like, I'm always in those types of situations, I'm always going to use fear of missing out. You know what I mean? I'm always going to use FOMO. And it's true at the same time, I have a limited amount of cash. I got 3 more appointments today, got 2 more tomorrow, and I'm not exactly sure what I have on Friday yet. But, if there's another property that looks the same in this development or around here that I can buy for this price or cheaper, I don't know if I'll be able to purchase your house anymore. And sometimes it's not, I don't know. You know what I mean? Because I do have to have, in my situation, even though I wholesale a lot of my inventory, like I have to have the money to buy it if it doesn't. Right. You know what I mean? So I have to be able to, be able to purchase that property. And if I buy, 4 or 5 houses in a week, if we put 4 or 5 houses under contract, like I don't know if that number makes sense anymore, especially if I buy the same house for 15 grand cheaper. Right. You know what I mean? So like, and sometimes it's not about any of that. It's all about that guaranteed sale that a lot of people want. They want to know that the cash is coming. They want to know that it's happening. So I would definitely put an expiration on your offer. I think it's really smart to do. And on the other side of that is, hey, that doesn't mean I'm going out of business. Right. That just means that we're going to have another conversation about it. And there's a good chance that my offer is going to be the same. Right. But I can't guarantee that. And I can't guarantee that I won't buy something, right around here for cheaper, and I might not be interested anymore. So I 100% agree.
Do you have because I know you partner with Scott.
Yeah.
So, a real estate agent. So, do you have, when you take that investor hat off,
sure,
and you're going into the real estate world,
sure,
do you know what when there's a time or a queue that says, okay, this is better suited for an on market, or do you utilize, because I know you will often utilize trying to wholesale it,
sure,
while listing it at a higher price on market?
Sure.
So you're, what is that called? Not wholetailing. No.
Wholesale, no, yeah. That's a whole different conversation. No, but you're good. No, I mean, for a lot of people, it's just, that is, how do I make that decision?
Yeah.
I make it on when I walk through the house. Like if that house can sell on the market or just needs carpet and paint, like when you walk into a house, even if it's 30 years outdated, you know if it would sell.
Right.
Like you do. Yeah, you do. And it's just because you've walked enough houses to know it.
Do you still try to contract them on a wholesale side of things?
Of course.
But, so I guess
So I give them multiple numbers.
Okay.
So hey,
okay.
I can settle in 2 weeks.
Right.
2-3 weeks. Here's that number. And by that time, most of the time that number is not, if they meticulously maintain their house and done updates, that number is not really what they want to sell their property for. Every now and then it happens, but you can't bank on that. So that's why, multiple exit strategies and understanding how to move that out is important. But if you're gonna go that route, and you need to explain to them what that looks like. Hey, I can pay this much, but I can't guarantee that sale for 90 to 120 days. And you have to be able to time to market it, find somebody that wants a customized renovation, go through that process. And that's it's different. It's even more white glove, and it's there's unless you handle that correctly, it's a mess.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I was saying, like,
yes.
I don't even know the right way to construct that and what it should look like so it's not a mess.
Yes.
That's kind of, yeah, exactly what's going on.
And it's more of just understanding your seller, understanding what it looks like to walk them through that process step by step, and make sure that they see it from the very first time they're in there, and for them to understand that, hey, this isn't the same as a wholesale. Like, this isn't the same as, or a cash buyer just buying my house. That, and not having, like, there's going to be steps and things that they have to deal with throughout that process that is not just, hey, here's a cash offer on your house, close when you want to, it is what it is. Make this easy. That's a whole nother step as a wholesale, and going that route. Contract to close, make sure title company understands wholesale and wants to work with you. That's important. I mean, if you're going to be a wholesaler, make sure that the title company understands what you're doing, that it is, an assignable contract, that they understand the process of what that looks like. Not as 3 people in that transaction. I've actually wholesaled to a wholesaler who sold it to somebody else. That's 4 people in that transaction that are getting paid. So you need to make sure that who's ever involved in doing title and cutting those checks understands what you're doing. Because if you go somewhere that they've never dealt with that before, it's probably few between now. But there might be some companies that don't want to deal with that. So just make sure that the title company that you work with understands what you're doing. All necessary paperwork is sent and delivered before closing in a timely manner. My office manager does this for me, so I would be terrible at this. But you need to make sure that the title company has all the information that they need. The last thing you want to do is have a seller all excited about closing, give them a closing date, and you didn't do your due diligence as the wholesaler to make sure that all the information was there for the seller or communicated with the seller, or if the title company isn't communicating the right way with the seller, that you had all the information there, and then next thing you know, you're extending settlement for a week, and they were planning on being in, Greece the next week. Now what do you do? So make sure that you do your due diligence in understanding what paperwork is needed, what signatures are needed, and that the title company is communicating with your seller, if you're the in-between there. And same with your buyer. Like, if they have an LLC, all those documents need to be there before settlement so that they can understand that. If there's a power of attorney, whatever it may be, if it's an estate sale, all those documents are there at the title company for settlement, because they will hold up your settlement. And your promise to your person is, not going to come through. And now you probably don't have the money or haven't set up the money to go purchase that property. So now you look like a real idiot. And sometimes at that point they might, maybe your contract expires that day, and they already have a buyer that's paying $10,000 more than you on the other end, because you already put those two people together as a wholesaler. So now they'll get the middleman out, and that person gets an extra 10 grand because you didn't handle it correctly. So make sure that you handle that contract. Build a relationship with the title company so they will work harder on your behalf to go get it done. That's what I was just talking about, with making sure that title company understands what they need from you. If you're the wholesaler and you brought both people there, or if the buyer's working there and you're the wholesaler and they need information from the seller, maybe the seller doesn't really want to deal with the title company, they don't want to give paralegal, make sure that person, those people at the title company tell you what you need, if the seller's not really interested in having to deal with that stuff, because you wanted to make it stress-free and easy and not have to deal with that. Get a notary that's mobile, that'll go to their house, do different things that'll go out of the way so that they can avoid, having to come somewhere for settlement. Take settlement to their house. If there's, documents that need signed by the title company, and they don't have a printer because they're 80, or they don't feel like doing it because they're 80, understand you might need to take that paper to their house. Do that extra work. Get that, to get that deal done, you got to do some extra driving and get things done. So, questions. What out of that? I mean, we covered a lot of information about wholesale, but what do you guys? What is some of the biggest issues you guys are struggling with outside of that? Digging deeper on just the basics of what we spoke about and what was up there. Does anybody have questions? About lead flow, about lead generation. What's up, man?
As far as dealing with end buyers, how do you usually get around? I know sometimes even the seller has an issue with you being basically like a middleman. Is there like a certain way? I know you said just be truthful off rip, but is there a certain way to you know what I mean, get around it other than that?
In what sense?
As dealing with an end buyer who you would need to cover the financial part of the deal.
Sure. So the end buyer that is buying your wholesale piece.
Right.
Most of them aren't going to care. If you got an investor, it's the seller is probably the only person that is really going to have an issue. The investor on the back end that's buying that property, they're just happy they found a deal. So if the numbers make sense, if they work for that investor, they're not gonna beat you up or worry about where it's coming from. What you need to make sure of is that the seller understood, that you have the capability of selling that property to another buyer. And I wouldn't just be like, hey. Now, if you're going to be a pure wholesaler and you're not going to ever buy the property, or you don't want to go get hard money, or you don't want to work with, a mentorship program like they have with Invest in PA or something like that, if your goal is to just go wholesale, you need to be truthful about that as well. You need to say, hey, if I can't sell this property, I'm not buying it, because otherwise you're going to leave. You'll be short term. As soon as you piss enough people off. But if you explain to them, hey, I don't know what this looks like. I'd like to be able to purchase this property from you. I do have the opportunity, based on my relationships that I've built over the years in this business, that a lot of people come to me for deals and they come to me for properties. And a lot of times these investors reach out to me about properties that I've been purchasing because I have a lot of properties under contract, and I just want to let you know that is a possibility. But no matter what, my standards of what my brand is and my company is what you're going to get. I'm going to be in charge of this whole deal from start to finish, no matter who else is involved. And I'm going to make sure that you get this amount of money on this day, no matter what happens. And if you have that conversation right away, the day you sit down with them, people, after you've built that trust and that relationship, that is going to be what moves them in the direction of dealing with you, instead of getting nervous and scared because of, oh, he could sell it to somebody else. And then when you do go to sell it to somebody else, it's not an issue because they trust you to, no matter what's going on with that third party, that you're going to take things to the finish line, and they're not going to get any extra stress or headaches through it. They might need to sign a couple more papers, but you're going to do and you're going to deliver on what your original promise was to them, is that it's going to be easy and stress-free.
Do you give anything as far as escrow? Like, when you sign contracts, do you have a portion where you say, I'm going to put $5,000 as the buyer with the assignable?
Sure. So it really depends. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It really depends on what the seller's wants are. When we go over the contract, it is a part of our contract where we can, I would say, if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know your numbers, they're definitely going to make you put money down a lot of times, especially if it goes in front of an attorney or anything like that. If anybody has questions, post them up here. We're doing a live Q&A. So this is live right now, guys. But anyway, if you are purely wholesaling and that is 100% what you're doing, if they're going to ask you for a deposit and an attorney's going to ask you for a deposit, make sure that, you know, your numbers are right and you're doing it, because you're going to lose that money if you're just running away from deals. So, but it does give people a peace of mind when you have cash in the deal, if it's $500, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it may be, that you're actually in the deal, you know, and you're not just shopping it. And that's why dispositions is so important. You know, having people to sell to, or bringing, you know, a deal that you have as a wholesaler through us, you know, which the relationships we've built with, I think he's on here right now, Matt Hockley, and those guys, you know, those guys where we have a lot of them, you know, and those are our best partnership that we have, which is, you know, why I say, you know, their mentorship is awesome, and you should be in that direction for fix and flip. But if you have a wholesale deal that you're having trouble getting rid of, you either paid too much for it, locked it up for too much money, or you just don't have a dispositions list. Like, you know, and so I would say, yes, put it on there. That's going to be a good way to start, especially if you're just starting. If you can avoid it somehow, I mean, that's great, but don't just avoid it because so you can walk away from the deal. You know, you're not going to leave a good feeling in people's stomach about that. A lot of times, if I don't do it, it's because they've already done research on my company. They know who we are. They're ready to go. They've seen people. They've watched video testimonials. They feel comfortable with where we're at.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One wholesaling the deal. Okay. One wholesaling the deal.
Yep.
Whose responsibility will it be to make sure you're getting a clear title back before you take it to going to a cash buyer?
Sure.
Do I do my due diligence, or
so
hire an attorney to do all that research for me?
Yep. So I would find a title company and have them do a title search, just like any other deal. Now, if you're going to wholesale it to somebody else that already has a title company, or you know what that disposition is already going to be, if you have a group of people, sometimes they'll want to use their own title, which is perfectly okay. A lot, like I said, build a relationship with a title company that is going to work in your best interest and knows what you're doing. But if it's something that you already know where you're going to sell it, I wouldn't pay for the title. You know what I mean? I would have that third party that's going to purchase it from you. They're going to take it to their own title company anyway. But if you have a title company that will put that title work together for you, it's nice to be able to tell somebody that it's clean. That's going to be able to get them to close in a quicker amount of time. So like if you have a time frame constraint and it's going to sell, but you have a title company that will work quickly for you if you reach out to them because of the relationship you've built, say maybe they need to close in 2-3 weeks, and you can call your title company up and say, hey, I need this title back right away. They're not sure if there's a lien on the property. Yeah, it's going to cost you a couple $100, but you got to figure out if it's worth it. If you know that you're going to be able to sell it and you want to be able to present it with a clean title, it's not a bad move. It's definitely smart. Anybody got any? Oh, Devin, you didn't make it. What's up, man?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting at the table, maybe you haven't been as clear on the front end with the seller that obviously they know you're selling it, you're assigning it.
Sure.
But when you're actually sitting there at the table with the seller and the buyer, and there's a $15,000 difference, sometimes that can be a little interesting. I mean, how do you handle that situation? Are you telling them up front how much you're going to make, or do you just hope they don't freak out at you at the table? So
Sure, that's a fair question.
I've been at that table.
And sometimes sometimes it's $5,000, sometimes it's $25,000. A good wholesale number, I say, if you're wholesaling properties anywhere between that $10,000 and $15,000 number, you're doing it right. I mean, that's tough sometimes. There's a lot of people that wholesale at $1,000 to $5,000 and are extremely happy with those results. So, obviously, that initial conversation that you have with the seller, I would say that about 70% of the people that you sit at a table with hear 100% of what you say. A lot of them are worried about how much they're going to get paid, when settlement is, and then, can you back out of the contract? And outside of that, like they miss like a lot of the other stuff that you're gonna have a conversation with them about. So that's something that can happen. You've told them that you could sell it to a third party. You told them that at that time you're going to make a profit off of the deal if you do sell it to a third party, and that's really something I bring up at the beginning as well. Like, hey, and I usually tell people this: if I say I'm locking up the house for $50,000, if I say, if somebody offers me $52,000, I can sell it to them if I'd like, and if someone offers me $42,000, I can sell it to them if I like, but you still get 50. That's what you want, right? And if you reiterate the fact that is what they wanted, like that's what they wanted. They wouldn't have agreed to that number unless that number solved whatever situation they were in. They wouldn't have said yes. They wouldn't have signed the contract unless at that time that number solved the problem. So yes, if you resell that property for $15,000 in profit, so at first it might be like oh wow, I can't believe you sold it for $15,000 more than what you bought it, put it under contract for. But a lot of times I explain to those people that like these are investors that like I spend $18,000 to $20,000 on marketing per month, like 18 to 20 grand. Like if I obviously have built, and the better guys out here that are wholesaling homes have built a relationship with a lot of people out there that give you the ability to find that deal. And there's a lot of investors out there that aren't spending that money. Like they're not spending the find the deal money. They expect people like me to go find the deal for them and bring it to them. And they don't want to spend the $18,000, $20,000 on the marketing. They'll either buy it on the MLS or they'll buy it from me. And then there's some that are doing that as well. But my goal is not to not tell them that I'm going to make money. I tell people all the time we got to be profitable. Like I can't run a business and not make money. And I tell people that when they say that is, hey, if your only goal here is the highest financial return that you can possibly make, I might not be the best option. Let's talk about your other options. Let's talk about what's going to be your best return on your investment. And now, if you're looking for easy, stress-free, be able to move quickly, a guaranteed sale, I'll be your best option. If you want someone who's going to take care of you, care about you, look out for you, do the extra stuff, you can leave your stuff behind, we'll help you move, we'll do those types of things. That's where I help you. I mean, you can't get that in just a normal real estate transaction. So those are the things that service, that step up on the service and going above and beyond that make, when you make $15,000. I've had people cry and hug us when we made $15,000, because what we did was solve a problem. And that, if you can remember that, when they agreed to that number, it doesn't matter what you make. They wanted what you were willing to give them. As long as you stay true to your word, give them that amount of money. Don't lock stuff up and just go back for discounts. I hate that. That's not a good way to run a business. There's times where discounts need to happen, but don't put it on paper just to put it on paper and lock up the deal and then go back and say you need a $20,000 discount. Like, have some integrity. That's not how you operate. Hey, Jima. Any other questions? Oh, which is why you make. Oh, nope. A lot of people watching, just not many questions. Any questions, guys? Yeah.
Like, say you have to buy 5 houses in a week. What's your funding to do that? How does that work usually?
So I would say, if a lot of times, first and foremost, I don't do a lot of flips. So a lot of times if I put something under contract, it's because I know I can wholesale it in the time frame that I put it under contract and be able to disposition it in that amount of time. When I say I buy 5 houses, it usually means that I put 5 houses under contract. Since I started, I've only had to buy 4 homes. So, I mean, it's just not something that I do a lot of. But I would say that, either reach out to, someone, do you know Zach and Matt? Invest in PA, where a mentorship, where they'll walk you through it, make sure you're not buying a bad house, they'll help you fund it. you'll go through that setup. If you're looking at the fix and flip side of things, and then if you're trying to wholesale a deal, just make sure that like when you lock up that deal, you give yourself enough time to sell it, and you put yourself in a position that you can disposition it, and make sure that you control that negotiation with whoever you're dispositioning it for. Like, don't be like, oh yeah, we can settle at the end of February when your contract's written for February 16th, because now you made two people angry. Like you made the seller angry, and you made the investor that you're selling the property to, because if they're a real investor and they're buying multiple homes per month, like now you're jamming up their plans on moving their cash around and making adjustments. So. Yeah, I mean, when I say buy, I'm most of the time just talking about putting under contract, but just make sure if you're tying them up at the right numbers, if you have deals, they're sell. And if you can't sell them, like that's the other side of being here today, is that, I've worked with multiple wholesalers that are bringing, they go find an address and they're not sure what to do with it. So, then they're like, hey, can you walk me through this? And we'll split the profit. Or hey, I got this locked up. I don't know if it's at a good price, but I can't sell it. Do you have somebody that would purchase this property? I got buyers everywhere. So and there's just some, you work out a deal that makes sense for everybody, and it's advantageous to both people. And then you don't make your seller mad. That's what it really comes down to, is providing that service.
Are you keeping some of these properties for rentals, or are you just wholesaling? And when you flip it, are you selling them, or are you keeping them in the portfolio? What are you doing?
I mean, it really depends on what the property is, what we bought it for, what the renovations needed. I'm actively trying to add to a rental portfolio and build one. I've been trying to focus on maybe outside of single family for that. So if you can find those different things, it's always helpful. But obviously the best thing is that have multiple exit strategies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I started the properties I got, I all went in it with one mindset, but then like as they kept talking, different exit strategies started popping up.
For sure, and they will. Like the more ways that you have, the more exit strategies that you have, the more money you can make, because you have different ways, because not every house falls into the same box. Yeah. So if you have, hey, I can sell it this way, and this way, and it's the same as lead gen. You know what I mean? The more avenues, the more ways you can come up with to work, the better it is. Yes.
I have a couple questions about driving for dollars.
Sure.
That's okay. I've been doing
Definitely.
a lot of driving for dollars myself personally.
Okay.
I'm looking to potentially scaling that operation.
Awesome.
I just kind of want to ask a couple questions, get a little better insight on
Without
how
a
that
doubt.
goes. Yeah. How many people was like a good starting point to have on the team to hit enough houses to really be converting into potential leads?
I would say per person, you should be able to find 50 houses a week.
50 houses a week.
If you're like really committed to it, and you're really out there doing it, like now you have to understand that a lot of those are not going to be deals. You know what I mean? But if you have 4 people finding 50 houses a week, like it's 200 houses. Like something, you'll eventually fall into a deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a wholesale opportunity out of that. So, but that takes time. Like I said, the commitment there. But I'd say 50 is a good number. If you can get 50 addresses and have 4 people doing that, 50 addresses at 4 people, that's a pretty solid setup.
Okay, great. And I've been using Deal Machine as well. Are you sending the mailers through Deal Machine, or are you taking the information from Deal Machine and using another software program to send the mailers out? Because I know Deal Machine can be kind of expensive when it comes to sending mailers.
Sure. We do use Deal Machine, but at the same time, a lot of times we'll bring those addresses back, look up the information, get that information, and then add that address to an outgoing postcard already, or just send them directly with, we send postcards every week. So for us, add a few addresses here, add a few addresses there, make sure that postcard gets out there, so that way you're reaching that person. But the advantage of Deal Machine is that it pulls all that information for you and sends it.
Absolutely.
If I could just add to that as well, handwrite that card.
Yeah.
Handwritten letter with a business card, whatever it may be, because you're only doing 50.
Yeah.
You know, we're spending 8,500 a week, so I can't handwrite all those.
Yeah.
But you can really personalize that and reach out to a specific, and you can mention, hey, I saw the, whatever about the property, describe it, and just say, hey, I'd like to make an offer. And it's kind of not, non-invasive, but it's a nice little personal touch. So.
Awesome. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
And then text and voicemail. Then now they know who you are.
Yeah.
So.
And then follow. And how many times do you typically follow up on a postcard?
Like send it to the same person?
Yeah.
I'd say like 6 times. What?
Okay.
About,
That's what's that, they were talking about that, like 5 to 7 times.
Yeah.
Touch back.
around that time. And then, once you get a lead that comes in, I would say it's the same follow-up with that as well. Touching those and reaching out to them and trying to get that information in some way or the other. Text
Yeah.
message, phone calls,
Absolutely.
mail, whatever works. And every demographic is going to be different on how they respond and what they respond to.
Absolutely. And over what course of time do you do you do that, like bi-weekly, weekly? For the mailers?
Bi-weekly to, bi-weekly, monthly, depending on, what type of finances you're working with.
Absolutely.
I'd say once a month is, well, if you're handwriting the card
Mm-hmm.
and sending it, I mean, you could send them every week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you're paying for mail drops and there's going to be multiple addresses, it's got to work into your budget of what you're going to do on that postcard and how many you're going to send and what that looks like. But if it's 50 a week, man, send one every week.
Thank
It's
you
okay
so
if you're a little annoying.
Yeah. Thank
You
you.
know what I mean? Yes.
I had a question. I don't know if you went over this, but I was wondering, I had 2 questions.
Sure.
One, how do you have that conversation with your seller where you're going to, like, not say, or I don't know how you would go about saying it, that you're going to sell it to an investor, or how that would happen?
Say that question one more time. I apologize.
Yeah, so say you have a property, right, and they're going to see that you're wholesaling the property. How do you go about that conversation with the seller?
So that's a couple people have asked that, and I would go over it again because it's super important. First and foremost is you just have to let them know from the minute you sit down that you have the capability of selling it to a third party. Like, doesn't mean you're going to, and but you need to let them know that the capability is there, that if someone offers you more money than what you've paid for that property, that they are comfortable with you selling it to a third party. And it has to be addressed on the front end, because I'm telling you, they will shut you down and they will not sign the documents needed to get that deal done if they feel like they were not given the information on the front end, and then they feel like you pulled something slick on the back end. So, my biggest thing is when you're talking to these sellers is make sure that they are told about every piece of your contract. That's why it goes back, knowing your contract like the back of the hand, breaking it down in layman's terms. Those types of things that you're doing with that contract when you sit with that person to make sure that they understand it. Truthfully understand it. And that, if you get to that point and they didn't hear it the first time when they signed the contract, and now all of a sudden you have a third-party buyer that wants to buy that home, you need to go back to that contract and revisit it with them. Maybe you need to go to their house, not over the phone if they're frustrated, and say, hey, remember when we sat here and I told you that there was a chance that I would be able to sell this to a third-party buyer? Remember that right here and right here and right here? and do it in a way that, that reminds them, oh yeah, wow, you did tell me that. And then it brings them back. And then there'd be some that really did hear you say that, and they could care less because they're guaranteed that money. And just make sure that they know, no matter what happens with that third-party buyer, no matter what's going on with them, that they are still guaranteed what you guaranteed them. What that original contract was is what they get. So it doesn't change. And, for me, it's a question on here right now, do you have to pay the PA transfer tax as a wholesaler? When you go through that, and, if you had them paying 1%, pay their 1% for them. you were going to have to pay it anyway if you bought the property. So, and they were going to have to pay 1%. So now you got a third-party buyer that's going to pay 1%, so pay their 1%. So they just, if you bought it for 60 grand, they save $600 by letting you sell it to a third-party buyer. You have to make sure that that give and take is there. If there's an advantage to you to sell it to a third-party buyer and you can save money by selling it to a third-party buyer, but not having to close on it, not have to get funded, not have to do those types of things, and you have the ability to wholesale it, you need to make sure that there's some type of advantage to them too. So put some extra money in their pocket that way. It'll make them happy about it, and it'll make them, especially if there's like a little bit of feel like they didn't understand the contract. If you're like, oh yeah, don't you remember? I also told you that I would pay your 1% transfer tax if I did sell it to a third-party buyer. So on top of that, you're actually going to get an extra $500,000, $600,000 back in your pocket on top of your prorated taxes. So that's just sometimes an easier way to address it.
Just one more question.
Of course.
I don't know if you answered it, but how did you build your buyers list for your properties that you wholesale?
Sure. That's a good question. And a lot of that comes back from the way I use social media, the way my company uses social media, really getting out there, making yourself available, letting people know, having a web presence, having the ability for people to go onto your website, add their email list, their email address to a list of individuals that get properties that we have available. Building that was a costly, I think it cost like $6,000 to build the website the way that we did it. So again, that's, those are thousands of dollars invested in that website. But, my biggest lead source of emails outside of that, even till this day, of people reaching out is by far social media. Just have to use it the right way. Be consistent, be constant, and commit to it. It's a job. It's exhausting sometimes, but that's how you'll get people that are just interested. And again, have 5,000 friends. I said that earlier today. As many friends as you can have, delete the ones that don't add value, and continue to add people that do. And next thing you know, you'll pop up in a suggested friends list, from all your real estate buddies and all your investors and different things like that. And they'll be like, oh yeah, that's that. Oh yeah, that's that guy. Oh yeah, that's that girl. And it just rolls downhill. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Where did you get your contract from? Your attorney drafted it?
Yeah, an attorney drafted it up. I mean, that's really, I would suggest anybody pay the $200, pay the $250. That's what we did, have it drafted up. But it just so happens my father's an attorney, so it helped a little bit. But that did help with the language and the jargon that's used in there, so that you can break it down. But make sure if a lawyer writes it, I promise you that it'll be like high-level English. So know that you're going to have to break that down, and make sure that you can explain what that means to that seller. So, but yeah, I have an attorney write it. That's what I would do.
And real estate agents, we can actually use the part forms, can't we?
You can use the part forms.
Yeah, we just can't have representation from either side.
Yes, but they're not going to protect you much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it depends. I would have a lawyer do it. Okay. Any other questions? Thoughts? What's up?
Going back to social media, I noticed, can you speak more to conversion rates? Maybe Scott can answer this more. What's the conversion rates? And I noticed you have a chat bot on Facebook, so once you go to your page, this chat bot pops up.
Sure.
So what other tools are you using in social media to capture leads?
Sure. So outside of, just our posts and different things like that, we do some, promotion, and when we have an ad, or, we've been making videos and, getting stuff done professionally, building commercials, different things like that we then promote and advertise. Scott, what other stuff on social media have you been using over there?
I mean, the biggest thing that we look at is organic content, obviously, especially when you're starting out. So that's the days that he spends hopping online, going Facebook Live. The engagements with videos in particular, as opposed to just a verbal script. I guess a script that you're sending out there in a post is so much stronger. And it's telling because obviously, Eric, who was it this past weekend? You were at the event and somebody told you, "Hey, I've been watching your videos." Like,
yeah.
You don't even know the person, but
for sure.
It's the it's consistency, and obviously having value that you're bringing to your audience, whatever it may be. It can be personal, it can be family oriented, it could be specifically business or wholesaling. Those are the things that are most important. I think it's especially where we're all at right now, kind of getting started, some of us, in wholesaling. Leverage free all that you can. Obviously get your content out there. Start to network. When somebody reaches out with a question, go have lunch. Because sometimes these are the guys who call you. Gentleman reached out to me yesterday, said, I've seen your videos, and I don't know why, but I think I trust you guys. I think you do the right thing. Here's an address. He gave us the lead and just trusted us to do the right thing. That's really cool. Like, that's validation on what we do.
Sure.
And we're going to do the right thing because screwing one person on one deal is silly. When you could do 20 successful deals where everybody's happy. So, and I think, just being genuine, authentic, and consistent. That's one of your strongest suits is being consistent with the Facebook Live. So.
Consistent and constant. That's when it comes to social media. Any other questions? Yes.
So for the buyers list, do you see that the leads that you get on that side of the spectrum, are they like investors that do hardcore flips or?
It's all over the place. I have people on my buyers list that will probably never buy a house. You know what I mean? They just wanted to give me their address. They just wanted to give me their email so they can see what our inventory is. So it is really just it's a mix of people. The best thing is that guy might be on our buyers list. The reason we put it out there, that guy might be on our buyers list for the next 2 years. And then all of a sudden, he comes into $1 million and he starts buying houses like crazy. So I want to be, I don't care if you buy a house from me. I want you to know that we're relevant. I want you to know that we have, presence, that we have inventory, that we're continuing to get that information out there to you. And just bringing that information in and bringing your emails in, being able to contact you, and then making myself accessible to them. That's really important as well. Even if they're not buying things, being able to be somebody that they can reach out to and talk to, and I can give them myself. It's important to build that list that people feel like they know you. All right, so I have a couple more questions. No more questions? Anybody? Nothing? All right. Who here can remember what's a text message app that they can use for advertising? Nice. Got to get rid of these. What's up? What is a company that you can use? Well, actually, give me 4 channels of lead generation. You already won one. Yes. What? 4. You gotta give me 4. You gotta give me. There were 6, so I'm asking for 4.
Tracing, calling, texting, and the last one is driving for dollars.
There you go. And last but not least, trying to think of a good question. Good question. What is the formula that you use to make an offer?
70% of the ARV minus cost of renovation.
My man. All right, guys. Hey, I appreciate everybody stopping in here today and coming to hang out with us. Yes, what's up, man?
After you're done with everything, can we go over this deal we were talking about?
Sure, without a doubt, 100%. Well, I appreciate everybody for coming in and checking it out. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate, to reach out to me. I am going to, right after this, I'm going to check in with him. We're going to, if anybody wants to hang out for a little bit, I don't know what everybody's doing. I'm going to get some appetizers over at Crimson across the street. If anybody wants to just chat and hang out, it's right across the street. So if anybody wants to just have a conversation about it and go from there. And if you guys need any information, you can always go to HonestHomeSolutions.com. Reach out to me at Erik@HonestHomeSolutions.com. It's always an easy way to get me. My business card is right in front of you guys. So if you need anything through that, I appreciate it. And again, I greatly appreciate you guys even caring what I have to say and taking your time to come in here. I know 2 hours of anybody's day is valuable, so I appreciate that. And if you guys don't have anything else, you guys can head out of here, and I'll probably be over at Crimson in about 10 to 15 minutes. All right, man.
I appreciate you.
Definitely.
That over, man.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, guys. Hey, thanks so much for coming, man.
Cutting me off, man.
Nice meeting you as well. I appreciate that, man. Thanks a lot.